I think the U.S. response has been as embarrassing as what the actual Egyptian military chose to do. I mean, we have to remember that what happened today, in the context of these, this 2 years of uprising, was the single most violent and deadly day. And this happened at the hands of the military. And I think, for as much as America wants to be seen as a credible negotiator, it was embarrassing for America that the general, General Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, decided to defy American and European officials and actually go ahead with this crackdown, this brutal crackdown, which slaughtered not only leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood or members of the Muslim Brotherhood, as well as one of the daughters of one of those leaders, but hundreds of people, according to the Muslim Brotherhood and the United Nations. I think the statements that we saw from Secretary Kerry were also just as embarrassing and baffling, quite frankly. Senator McCain pointed that out on Twitter because it was just 2 weeks ago that Secretary Kerry was saying that the Egyptian government, the interim cabinet and the military should be praised for restoring democracy in Egypt.
And we're showing people John McCain's tweet where he said Senator Kerry's statements from earlier, Secretary Kerry's praising the military takeover didn't help. As we predicted and feared, chaos in Cairo. Ambassador Ginsburg, what can we do now, if anything?
We really have no leverage. Even the $1.8 billion in military assistance that we provide to the military didn't seem to stop President or General al-Sisi, so to speak, from undertaking this violence. And notwithstanding the entreaties of the Secretary and Secretary Hagel, the President, he went ahead. And so essentially the United States is left holding the bag here, and it really has no influence over the decision making, at least for the next few days. Now obviously that's going to change. Once the military achieves its objective, it's then going to try to make nice again with the United States, and the question is, what will the United States do as a result? Will it be responsive, or will it turn a deaf ear to the military's entreaties to try to restore relations with it?
Ahmed, Libya, Syria, Egypt, and then I think about the lack of response from Russia when it came to Snowden, and how basically Holder was laughed out the door by the Russians at his requests. I mean, have we lost our standing in the world? Do we have behaved in other parts of the world?
On that question, I mean, we've seen Saudi Arabia and Russia have meetings, behind closed doors, trying to perhaps change. What I want to focus on when it comes to America's credibility and role in the Middle East is that it not only has been compromised, I mean, as the ambassador said, America could have withheld or given consequence to the actions of the military by withholding that military aid. Today it was reported that there was some talk that the United States might abort or, not do the missions that they have, the military training exercises with Egypt. But that's a tiny, tiny, tiny step in the right direction. What the U.S. needs to do is put their money literally where their mouth is. There was a lot of rhetoric. You can, call what happened, what the military did, deplorable. I mean, how is there meant to be political reconciliation in Egypt if you're slaughtering, a group of people of the society, which for decades, by the way, we should mention, had been, slaughtered and, pushed underground by previous presidents. So it's more of the same, and I'm really disappointed that the U.S. didn't at least give an ultimatum or some sort of consequence, because in my opinion, quite frankly, Michelle, I think that the military aid and the relationship with Egypt is more in America's interest than it is in Egypt's interest. They got so much money from a Gulf ally like Saudi Arabia.
Your thought on the whole question, for example, the way Russia responded to our request to Snowden. Is that emblematic of the U.S. standing in the world?
Well, there's no doubt, Michelle, that Putin has only one agenda, and that is to poke his stick in our eye as often as possible.
But does he feel like he can do that more now because of our foreign policy?
I suspect that the impunity by which certain countries are acting to the United States is an indication of the degradation of our standing around the world in a variety of fronts.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Truly appreciate it.
Sure.
Our pleasure.
Ambassador Mark Ginsburg and Ahmed Shihab-Eldin from Huffington Post. Now we have the latest piece of fishy evidence